So the main event of Slammiversary is, as is tradition for the second year in a row, the King of the Mountain match, as Christian Cage will defend the NWA World Championship against 4 other men in King of the Mountain. So we go to the opening segment of the first Impact of the month, where we have a lot of challengers lining up for Christian Cage's NWA World title. Maybe too many challengers. Maybe we have 8, but we only need 4.
Do you think they should have kept King of the Mountain as Slammiversary every year?
Yeah, like this year's Slammiversary main event is a multi-man elimination match. It's a 6-man multi-man elimination, and there's part of me it's just like, King of the Mountain, guys. So what are we doing?
Yeah. And over the years, like, you could have switched it around. Like, could have done a knockouts year with King of the Mountain, Queen of the Mountain, I guess. You could have done an X Division year. You know what I mean? Like, you could have changed. It didn't always have to be the world title, but, like, it feels like King of the Mountain should have been something that always took place at Slammiversary.
Yeah, and that is something they did. Whereas, like, in 2009, they had 2 King of the Mountains, one for the X Division, one for the world title. And then it was a Hogan Bischoff thing, of course, where they got rid of the tradition of King of the Mountain being the Slammiversary match, and then it came back in the middle of the 2000s or 2010s for 2015, and then disappeared again, and then came back for the 20th anniversary. Then we had Queen of the Mountain in 2022. But yeah, like part of me is like, you know, they're throwing 6 guys in the world title match. King of the Mountain's right there. It's a tradition. I like traditions. I really do like traditions because it makes your company feel like it has its history. You know, it's not just we're doing something for no reason. It's like you can get a little bit excited. It's like, oh, we're heading into King of the Mountain season. How are they going to do it? They're going to do qualifiers. They're going to start putting people in the match. You have traditions to look forward to, and I like that.
Yeah.
So May 18th Impact opens with Christian Cage. He celebrates in the crowd as they chant his name because he's retained the NWA World title in Full Metal Mayhem against Abyss at the pay-per-view. Says the title belongs just as much to the peeps as it does to him. Next up for Christian is King of the Mountain. He points out, as many people will many times this month, that the champion has never retained in King of the Mountain. So the champion has never walked into King of the Mountain and walked out with the belt. Ron Killings lost in 2004. AJ Styles lost in 2005. So will he break tradition? Will he be the man finally to retain a title in King of the Mountain? He says he's kicked more ass by accident than most have on purpose. So we'll see who steps up. Monty Brown comes out. He says he's back because it's the first time we've seen Monty since he lost to Christian actually in March. So it's our first time we've seen Monty in a few months because he got his knee scope.
Yeah.
And we're also in the final run of Monty.
Yeah. Do they know that they're in the final run of Monty yet?
It feels like it.
Yeah. It's the impression I get.
It does certainly feel like a man who is running out his contract because he doesn't even go, like, realistically, if you're to be like, who should qualify for King of the Mountain, Ron Killings or Monty Brown? The answer should be Monty Brown, and yet it turns out to be Ron Killings.
I was kind of shocked, and then I thought, like, maybe it was because they felt the need to have someone a little more, like, bouncier and athletic, because if you don't have Ron in here, you don't kind of have anyone in that role.
Yeah, I guess Abyss can take bumps, but he's not, as you said, like a guy who can do some ladder spots.
Like, you don't have AJ here.
And Sting, Christian, Jarrett are all guys who are heavyweight guys. The Christian's the most athletic of the 3, and Sting is willing to jump off things, as we'll find out. But yeah, you are right that it is probably, if we added Monty to that match, it's far too heavyweight leaning, whereas Ron can do some dives and be athletic and be something different in the match, I guess.
Yeah, so I thought that might have been a reason too.
So Monty says he owes Christian a pounce, period. Adrenaline rush hits, and then Rhino comes out, Killings comes out, Raven comes out, Abyss comes out, Jarrett and Steiner come out. Of course, Jarrett is the only one that gets to speak, says he deserves to be in the match, which brings out Sting. Sting's in the rafters and says, by Jarrett involving himself in King of the Mountain, now Sting's involving himself in King of the Mountain. And then Larry Zbyszko appears on the screen, and he says, it turns out we have 8 men around here, but we only need 4.
He's also very prim and proper here. You should keep that in mind.
I did quite like that. He's making like a very formal, a very official announcement that seems like it's above reproach. No one can question it. He is being fair and decent. If there is any new faces of TNA management potentially watching, Larry is doing things by the book.
It was very funny.
So yeah, we have 8 contenders. We only need 4. So over the next few weeks, there will be King of the Mountain qualifiers. But the hook is we won't know who will be in the matches until bell time. So no one knows when they'll be wrestling, and no one knows who they'll be wrestling until the music hits. So that's the hook over the next few weeks, that you're given these 8 men. You're given Raven, Killings, Abyss, Steiner, Jarrett, Monty, and Sting. And then like your imagination can run wild about the kind of matches that can happen between those 8 men.
Which is like, gives us our monthly Jeff Jarrett has something to whine and complain about, and a mystery to solve, because that's the only story he knows how to tell.
He can always he's mad at people. He's always mad at people. He's giving out to people all the time.
He's gotta ask, who knows what? Who's telling me something? Let me know.
He needs to demand things from Mike Tenay. We'll actually cover one of those under Steiner Joe because it kind of fits better there. But yeah, there's one of those on this show where they're shouting at JB and Steiner's mad.
Yeah.
So main event of this episode, your first King of the Mountain qualifier is Abyss versus Rhino. Abyss coming out without James Mitchell because Mitchell got dropped on thumbtacks at the pay-per-view, so he's selling that.
Yes, it's weird to see Abyss without James Mitchell now. I'm so used to it.
Yeah, and these two, just bad chemistry, I think.
Yeah.
For two guys you would think should have good chemistry and did have one really good match, there's a lot of stinkers between these two. Some very boring TV matches.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Abyss at one point, Rhino kicks out of a move and Abyss like screams something, and then Don tries to like speculate about what Abyss was saying. And he's like, I think he said, I had it. Rude comes out, but Rhino fends him off. The distraction allows Abyss to hit a black hole slam for the win as D'Amore gloats after. We'll talk more about Rhino and Rude and D'Amore, the big pay-per-view match we've all been looking forward to. But Abyss qualifies for King of the Mountain.
I'm glad that he did.
Over Rhino?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's nice to brand your homegrown talent in the world title match, huh? Fuck you, fucking Paul Heyman. May 25th Impact.
To me.
May 25th Impact. JB is backstage with the remaining King of the Mountain qualifiers. It teases what tonight's main event could be. We get a feature on King of the Mountain explaining what King of the Mountain is and the rules, and once again reiterating no champion has walked into King of the Mountain, walked out with the belt. JB has Sting. He's fired up for the King of the Mountain. He's seen wrestlers and companies come and go, but he doesn't want that to happen to TNA, and he sees the biggest threat to that happening to TNA being Jeff Jarrett. So he needs to remove him from King of the Mountain and remove him from TNA.
Oh my gosh.
We then, this is unrelated to King of the Mountain, but we had an ad for Slammiversary.
Yeah. It's goofy.
So there's Mike and Don are watching golf. They're watching a fake Tiger Woods go for a putt, but Jarrett cuts him off and hits him with a guitar, and Mike and Don are very amused by this. And there's a fun note about this that In Demand nixed it. They wouldn't use this pay-per-view commercial because they skewed far too close to actually using Tiger Woods' likeness. So In Demand was like, ooh, no, we can't use it. Sorry.
It's so good though.
Cowards in the pay-per-view industry, Liam. There's an interview with Raven, points out that both he and Jarrett have won a King of the Mountain, so it would be a battle between them of the previous King of the Mountain winners. JB also has Jarrett and Steiner. Jarrett says he'll regain the title. Steiner tells Jarrett to shut up, says he came to TNA to watch Jarrett's back and beat up Sting. Steiner demands Larry Z pull he and Sting's name out of the hat, and he's mad at Joe eyeballing him, says next time Joe does that, he'll slap the taste out of his mouth, because nobody eyeballs Big Papa Pump.
I wouldn't. I'd be very afraid to.
Would you actually be scared? If you were in a room with Scott Steiner, 5x5 room, it's just you and Scott Steiner.
Okay, no bird, no scorpion either.
No, this is just Steiner.
Okay.
Two chairs in opposite corners of the room, but not like making eye contact. So you're against the same wall, back to the same wall.
Like you're at a waiting room.
Yeah, so you sit in one chair and Steiner sits in the other. Would you spend the entire time not looking at Scott Steiner?
No, I wouldn't. You know what I would do?
What would you do?
I'd go, hello, Mr. Steiner. Did you know that we have the same birthday?
You have the same birthday as Scott Steiner?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So I would simply talk to him about that.
You would extend the olive branch?
Yeah.
Do you think he would then become friends with you?
I think because it is a very, it's a very rare birthday. I feel like both of us would relate to that fact that we don't see many people with the same birthday.
I feel like well, actually, probably if you look into the stats, it's not the case that that birthdays are evenly distributed. There are probably, for various reasons, birthdays stockpile in certain months.
Yeah, I mean, I would simply relate to Mr. Steiner, and we would become besties.
And then he would attack your enemies on your behalf?
Yes, exactly. I would become his Jeff Jarrett, in a sense.
We all become Jeff Jarrett in the end. He says nobody eyeballs him because it makes him want to snap! JB also has Ron Killings. Killings points out that he's a 2-time champ and he'll make it 3. Then he raps. They did seem to largely forget that Killings was the one who lost the belt in the first King of the Mountain, but they brought it up in the Slammiversary cold open. That's where Killings is like, King of the Mountain means a lot to me. It's like, because he lost the belt in the first one. So they did eventually remember that. But your main event of this one, Ron Killings versus Monty Brown in a King of the Mountain qualifier.
Wow.
Which is a fun match. Not a particularly good one, but it's a fun one.
A lot of them, like, a lot of the King of the Mountain qualifiers, like, aren't good, but it is fun to have them on the show.
Because, like, all 4 are, like, actual star versus star TV main events.
Yeah, and, like, it's just having, you know, name versus name.
Christian joins commentary here. Again, they once again reiterate the champion has never left King of the Mountain, still champ. Ron hits a big plancha, then Monty, like, beats his ass for a while, hits an alpha bomb, hits a fallaway slam, then Truth just grabs a roll-up, pins Monty when he goes for the pounce. And then Truth qualifies with Abyss for King of the Mountain. June 1st Impact opens with everyone's favorite segment, Jeff Jarrett demanding to know what's going on.
Thank God. What would a pay-per-view cycle be without that?
You know, we've gone at least like 3 weeks without Jarrett appearing at the announce table, shouting at Mike Tenay, demanding to know something. So, is it really TNA?
Is it? That's the question.
We have long established that the number one real feud across TNA history is Mike Tenay versus Jeff Jarrett. Going all the way back to 2002, 2003, 2004, where every week Jarrett and Tenay would shout at each other and get mad at each other and cut promos on each other.
The My Way hype music video, but it's Tenay and Jarrett.
I should actually cut that. Just one Mike Tenay face. More fight, other Mike Tenay face. About a lot of things, or whatever the lyrics of that song are.
About your leadership. Ooh.
Oh, I'm a fake Limp Bizkit fan.
No, but also, like, those lyrics resonate with the story being told.
Oh, he's trying to take down the Jeff Jarrett leadership? But yeah, Jarrett says there's only one person that wants to know who's wrestling tonight more than he does, and that's Scott Steiner. Steiner comes out and shouts at Mike and Don and demands to know. He then attacks Don and rolls him in the ring. Steiner wants Larry Zbyszko to give him Sting tonight. Sting's music hits. Don rolls to safety. Sting and Steiner brawl. Jarrett backs up the ramp into Raven. They also brawl. Raven and Sting stand tall.
Raven, good coats this month.
Especially with Sting. Good coat men.
Hey, they look cool together, didn't they?
Yeah, this should be a tag team. It was kind of funny to see them next to each other. It's like the part of my brain was just like Raven and Sting. Look at them go.
They should be teaming up.
We had a feature later in that show on Christian and King of the Mountain. Believe it or not, Liam, he wants to be the first person who walks in and out as champ.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy business. Why would he want that? Why would he want to retain his belt?
Nobody has ever said that no champion has ever retained a title in King of the Mountain either.
Wow.
Christian, in fact, has a line on the pay-per-view. It's like, I think you've heard like 50... He did the literal, if I had a dime for every time somebody told me that the champion had never won in King of the Mountain, I'd have 51 dimes, I think he said. Jarrett's not King of the Mountain. He beat Jarrett, so it's the Christian Cage era now. And then our main event, King of the Mountain qualifier. After all these years, after 3 in fact, since they originally wrestled for the NWA World title in the biggest match in TNA history, we finally get the rematch between Jeff Jarrett and Raven.
And we get it unannounced on TV.
It's crazy. Because, like, the way they did this, like, obviously the idea was you're not going to know who the main events are until they come out. And if you're to say which of the matches we have set up, because the last one you will then announce in advance by default. You know, it's the last one left over, so you know the last 2 left are Sting and Steiner. So that's the match you actually announce. So you are probably right to leave that one last, because that is, on paper, the biggest match. So you actually want to hype that one up for a week. But you're like, Jarrett, Raven 2. After all these goddamn years, the huge match, sold out the Asylum, did one of TNA's best weekly pay-per-view numbers. Like, a great match too. Like, it's extremely silly with all the interference, but tremendous fun. After all these years, we finally get it, and as you said, unannounced as a TV main event.
I feel like they could have, like, had Larry finally be like, fuck it, and like pull the names out and reveal both matches. And that way you could have advertised both.
Do you think Larry Z, in fact, gimmicked it after threats from Scott Steiner? There's many threats from Scott Steiner to give him Sting, and he did give him Sting in the end.
Yeah, probably. But like, I actually thought the payoff was going to be that it was going to be Raven and Sting.
Which that would be, but then you'd have to do Jarrett and Steiner.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be. I thought the whole time it was going to be like Jarrett and Sting, and I saw Jarrett and Steiner, and it was going to be like some bullshit, you know?
And them trying to find a way out of beating beating each other. But I guess that is the idea, that your imagination is meant to run wild. You're meant to, but maybe it is Jarrett and Steiner. Maybe their entire scheme will blow up in your face.
Because that was also one they never mentioned.
Yeah, and they were pretty good at, like, they even ran down the ones they ended up being. Like, they didn't shy away from, like, saying maybe it could be Jarrett Raven. They did say that at one point. But you're right, I don't think the only one they didn't say was Jarrett against Steiner.
And so the whole time I was like, it's totally going to be Jarrett and Steiner.
But no, you get Jarrett and Raven after all these years having a fun TV main, actually. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, like, they still have good chemistry together, even though, like, they spent 3 years neutering Raven.
They go straight into crowd brawling. This is the 2 former winners of King of the Mountain, so then they also point out that, again, it will be Sting versus Steiner next week by process of elimination. Raven looks to elbow drop Jarrett through a table off the stage, but Jarrett moves and Raven crashes and burns. They brawl into the concession stand. Jarrett crashes through the stand. Raven follows after, kind of misses and just runs right into it. It's kind of funny. They brawl back into the building as Raven hip tosses Jarrett down the ramp. Ref gets bumped. Gale slides in the guitar. Raven gets a sleeper as blood drops out of Jarrett's mouth, which did add drama. He started bleeding from the mouth. It's like, what the fuck happened to you, buddy?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like a complete, like, waste of time or anything. Like, they had good chemistry. They had a good little brawl. It felt appropriate, like, for what, like, these two have meant to each other in the company's history. Like, they did the best with the position of the match.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of, like, annoying that this is what we got after all these years.
Because, like, it's a Impact TV main, which means it's going 7-8 minutes tops. So, which is about what they got, I think, and that's about and they made about the most of what you can get out of your 7 or 8 minute Impact main event. But yeah, it's just funny. At least it happened, I guess. At least they did get one Jarrett Raven rematch.
Yeah.
As I said, Raven has a sleeper on Jarrett, and blood is spewing out of Jarrett's mouth, which does add some drama. Every sleeper, by the way, you should start bleeding from the mouth. It makes the sleeper much more dramatic.
Yeah.
Raven drop toe holds Jarrett onto a chair. Larry Z comes out and takes the guitar from Raven. Jarrett hits a low blow, but Larry takes the guitar from Jarrett too, so he's a fair man.
Yeah. I was kind of like wondering what this was. It felt like for a minute there, like Larry was gonna forgive the sins of Raven. And like it felt like they were gonna be on, like, that was gonna be the blow off to the feud, was Larry was gonna be like, fuck Jeff Jarrett.
Which is the conclusion we should all come to eventually.
Yeah.
Raven goes to hit Jarrett with the guitar, but Jarrett moves and Raven accidentally hits Larry instead. Stroke puts Jarrett in King of the Mountain alongside Killings, Abyss, and Christian. As mentioned, process of elimination leads us to the June 8th Impact, in which Scott Steiner faces Sting.
I was gonna say, sorry, like, it opens the show. Is Jarrett versus Raven to Sting versus Steiner, like, the biggest match-to-match, like, run in Impact history?
Yeah, go from main event to opener?
Yeah.
It might be.
Like, just the biggest, like, the biggest 2 matches, like, in a row, technically.
And if you were to, like, what are some of the biggest singles matches TNA could potentially build up? Like, the Jarrett Raven rematch has been one of them for 3 years, even if it has lost its luster over time. And then, like, Sting and Steiner is one of the bigger ones now. And, like, they did, like, as you said, it opened the show. So, like, they did do a bunch of things at the start. We got, like, a quick interview with Sting. He said it's showtime. We got a quick interview with Jarrett and Steiner. Jarrett instructs him to take out Sting, and Steiner's fired up. Like, we got highlights of the previous 3 qualifiers, and then, like, both men got these, like, big dramatic intros where they, like, slowly, you know, were warming up backstage to slower versions of their theme songs before the music hit. They did a few smaller things to try and make this feel like a big TV opener.
Yeah. That's good. I don't know. I feel like they did a good job of making it feel like a big match, even though it was just TV.
Yeah, and I'm really enjoying Steiner. We'll talk about it more, obviously, with the Joe stuff. But, like, Steiner is a guy who I think his entire reputation got shot by the WWE run in 2002, where he had 2 very bad matches with Triple H, one of the worst of all time. And then he just kind of fell into a mid-card loop before he crashed out of there. And I know he had injuries and he had other stuff going on there, that he had some difficulties in WWE for various reasons. But, like, I feel like that defined Steiner's reputation for maybe the rest of his career. And, like, he is obviously old and large and injured and relatively washed up here. But, like, in the right circumstances, Steiner's still got some juice in multiple ways.
Yeah, we're not saying that Steiner is what he was.
He's not 1992 Scott Steiner, like, doing the most awesome New Japan matches you've ever seen.
Yeah, but he's like, you know, he can pull it out for a moment.
Yeah, and there's a deep discussion of people who have aura. And Scott Steiner is one of them. That man is real.
Real rock and roller.
Scott Steiner is a man who you see on pro wrestling television and you are like, that is not an act. That man is real. That is who he is.
Authenticity.
They brawl out to the floor, and Sting hits Steiner in the skull with a chair at ringside, and Earl Hebner just kind of does like a, come on.
Come on, guys.
He doesn't even like, admonish them really. He's like, guys, come on.
Guys, please.
Steiner hits a low blow, takes control. Crowd chants steroids at him, which is quite rude. Sting hits a top rope clothesline, makes a comeback. Sting goes for a stinger splash, but Steiner pulls the ref in the way. Gale and Jarrett interfere as Jarrett hits the stroke on Sting. Slick Johnson runs out and Sting kicks out. Sting drops out of a suplex into a Scorpion Death Drop, but Jarrett then pulls the referee out. Sting gets a roll up on Steiner, but Jarrett jumps Sting for a DQ. Hebner disqualifies Steiner. Sting qualifies for King of the Mountain by disqualification, which is it's a shitty cop out, but it's the right call. Steiner shouldn't be taking a pin before the show.
Yeah, and like again, this is an aura match. This is a match just between seeing two guys in the same ring. You don't really need a clean finish on TV for this.
No, it's one of those where it's like, I'm fine with the DQ. Jarrett and Steiner attack after the match. Truth makes the save, but then Abyss with Mitchell now, who has returned after 3 weeks of pulling thumbtacks out of his back, presumably. Truth hits Abyss with the axe kick, but Jarrett jumps him behind, and then Christian makes the eventual save.
Yeah.
The opening segment of the June 8th edition of Impact drew a 1.1 rating, disappointing to TNA because they were really hoping that Sting and Steiner would pop a huge rating. What they forgot when they planned that was they were head-to-head with one of the NBA Finals games, so they fucked themselves over.
Wrestling forever but getting fucked by the NBA Finals.
Yeah, so it was a really good rate, and apparently it grew quarter hour 1 to quarter hour 2, which is pretty rare for Impact at this point. So it apparently did pick up some steam having Sting and Steiner, but they were hoping for like a record-breaking number, and they only did a normal good number. So NBA Finals, baby, fucking everybody over all the time. Go home Impact. Christian kicks off the show. He runs through all of his opponents. He says, "You cannot beat me," in a slow voice about Abyss, which seems a bit rude. Our problematic babyface world champion.
How dare he?
He then does a riff on What's Up. He hopes Truth can wrestle better than he can dance.
Again, two-time former champion.
Yeah, I held the belt more than you have, buddy. Jarrett embarrasses himself enough, so he doesn't have to say anything about him, and that brings him to Sting. I do think this is like the weakest part of Christian's entire act.
Yeah.
Like, he is very much trying to be a version of The Rock. Like, he's trying to do, like, babyface comedy. He even does, like, the Rock pauses in backstage interviews. He is trying to be that kind of babyface. And I just don't think that's who he is. It's not his strong suit. And as we see in this segment, we are obviously gearing toward the eventual Christian heel turn, where, like, he starts distrusting Sting. Sting is like, the only reason I'm here is to remove Jeff Jarrett. That's the only thing I want out of King of the Mountain. You don't have to worry about me. When Christian is rightfully very dubious of that idea. Meaning, like, you have no interest in the title? None at all? And Sting's like, no. And then Christian says the worst thing that could happen for TNA is for me to lose the title. Never mind Jeff Jarrett win it. Says this is his time, and then he stares deep into Sting's eyes. So we have distrust between Sting and Christian.
I mean, and I don't know, Christian, my man's feeling very heelish lately.
Like, there is a lot of talk, again, in the media about how successful Christian has been as champion. And I think some of it is fair. I don't think he's been this, like, home run, no questions asked, babyface champion that has held this belt and is doing great. He does feel a little bit unsure of himself in a top babyface role. And I think he has for a lot of his career, because the man is just a natural heel. He has always been a natural heel. And anytime he is in, like, a top heel position, he has excelled. And anytime he's been in a top babyface position, it's felt a little shakier. And we're seeing that play itself out here as they're realizing this guy has a more natural role, and maybe we should just take, because he's just a smarmy git. That's who he is. He's just a smarmy piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's fine. Like, I feel like you did have to introduce him as a babyface, but like, he does need to eventually turn sooner rather than later.
We get features on the show on Jarrett and King of the Mountain, on Truth and King of the Mountain, and on Abyss and King of the Mountain, just to set them all up, and that's your go-home stuff for the main event. We open with a feature in Slammiversary on focusing, once again, you might have heard this, Liam, no champion has ever entered King of the Mountain and left as champ.
Since fucking when?
They finally acknowledge Ron as one of the losers here, which is good at least. It gives Ron an extra incentive in this match. Yeah, it's on the pay-per-view they do it, but fine. And also focus on pitting Sting and Christian against each other. JB has Jarrett. His whole life he's proved the naysayers wrong. They said he was too short to play basketball, and he played basketball at varsity level or whatever.
Okay.
He was named Rookie of the Year in his first year, and he succeeded time and time again, which seems less like proving naysayers wrong and more like Nepo baby behavior here. He said he's the Reggie Jackson, the Michael Jordan, the Joe Montana of wrestling.
Okay.
Before Cornette could, later in the show, he drops the "they said we wouldn't last 6 weeks." And here they are, going on 4 years. He's going to regain the belt, and Larry Zbyszko walks in, and he's like, the new face of TNA management is who you think it is, and it doesn't look good. And Jeff is like, why are you telling me this 2 hours before my match?
He brings a valid point.
We had all of this time to scheme and plan, and you just show up live on the show during my backstage interview 2 hours before my match?
Again, he kind of has a point.
But Jarrett is like all your failures, I will fix this.
All right, cold.
JB has Sting later in the show, despite the go-home segment being built around Sting being like, I don't really want the belt, I just want to stop Jarrett. Sting is like, if I have the chance of the belt, I'm actually going to take it. If I can get it, I'm going to take it, sorry.
Yeah.
But his main priority is still Jarrett. But if the opportunity arises to become champion, he may take it.
I like that he kind of admits, like he's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's like, he called me out, and he's right. He is dead right. I want the belt.
It's not my main focus, but I'll take it.
We also have a video look in this show at the best moments in TNA history set to Fighter by Candle Fuse.
Ooh. It's a great song, isn't it?
Because they use this song a bunch. They use it on the top 50 moments in TNA history DVD, which is where you may have heard it first. They also use it on, there's a special feature on the Slammiversary 2007 DVD, which is the same concept. It's just an extra year of TNA footage added in with the same song. So like this song is burned into my brain. This is My Way by Limp Bizkit.
I didn't realize it was a Jesus song.
It's always Jesus. Everything TNA always has is Christian rock. I guess Christian rock is an overstated role in wrestling history because of Creed as well.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was listening to it on the way to work. And I was looking at the lyrics once I parked. I was looking at the lyrics and I was like, oh, this is Jesus.
You have finally found faith.
Yeah, and that's what got me.
Through this video package on Slammiversary 2006, you're like, holy shit, Jesus is real.
Shoutouts to the people on Twitter that think we made that video, by the way.
There's some people that do?
Yeah.
I would have thought the zoom in shot on the screen in the impact zone is the tip off that we may not have made it.
No, we made it.
Okay, my video editing extraordinary skills.
That was just great editing.
We also have JB has Christian on that show as well. He said if he had a dime for the number of times he's heard the champ has never retained the King of the Mountain, he'd have like 51 dimes. But it's like, I told you, Sting showed his true colors earlier in the show. I told you he wants the belt. The title is like a drug and you don't want to let it go. And then King of the Mountain for the NWA World title, Jarrett defeats Abyss, Christian Cage, Sting, and Ron Killings to become champion for the 6th time.
Like, okay. Obviously, that's a bit shite. We can all admit the idea of Jeff Jarrett being TNA champion once again, NWA champion, is not the most appealing thing in the world.
Not at all.
I'd argue that my bigger crime in this match is that it was pretty boring.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Like there's some, like Sting finds his first high thing to jump off of. So we have an arc to the back half of his career begins here, where he does a crossbody off the penalty box to the floor, and we will see that scale up in extreme fashion in AEW in like 18 years. But yeah, Abyss gets crashed through some tables, but there's nothing going on in this match. Like Earl Hebner's referee, Larry Z is keeper of the belt, which will be important for the finish. But like in terms of being like, I think King of the Mountain, it's a ladder match, so like you can only go so far wrong realistically. And I think the first two, and particularly the 2005 one, is very good, and the first one's pretty good too. And this one is just largely pretty boring.
Yeah. I don't know. It just, not a lot. Like, I liked the stuff with Christian and Sting. And, like, towards the end, where Sting has Jarrett in the deathlock, and he's like, go get the belt, Christian, do your thing. But, I don't know. It's kind of a dull match besides a couple big spots. I think it probably suffers from not having a Jeff or an AJ or someone in there to, like, die.
Because AJ was in the first two.
Yeah.
And he's in the next one.
They learnt from that mistake, obviously.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jeff Jarrett comes out as champion, so, you know, looking forward to the next run of Impacts.
The finish is so convoluted.
Explain it for the people.
So Jarrett becomes eligible earlier in the match by hitting a stroke off the apron into the rail on Killings, which looked really good. Killings,
yeah, it's a good move.
Yeah, Killings took a great bump there. So he's eligible. Sting and Christian are eligible. Christian goes to climb the ladder, and Larry Z just low blows him and stops him. He's just this. Like, fuck it. Fuck the pretense. We're not doing a scheme. I'm screwing you. I'm on Jarrett's side. Christian and Sting then implode over the title, and then they're both climbing the ladder when Earl Hebner, who was bumped, stumbles into it and knocks both men off. But the camera kind of misses this.
Yeah, and it looks like someone else just did it.
Because you just kind of see Hebner stand up and they cut to an angle where the ladder falls over, and you don't actually see what happened.
Yeah, you kind of assume that, like, oh, Ron or Abiz or, like, whatever, like, some Steiner, something that would make sense.
But no, it's Earl. Earl stumbles into the ladder, knocks both men off, and then Jarrett climbs the ladder. And then, as my voice breaks, that's how upset I'm about this. And Jarrett climbs the ladder, hangs the belt. Crowd throw rubbish even before he hangs the belt. As he's climbing the ladder,
Because they know what's happening.
They start throwing bottles and shit at him, as he is the new NWA World Champion.
Why didn't they just have Steiner do this instead of Earl?
Well, the idea is they set up a scheme and it'll be a whole thing on TV where they try to prove the collusion, even though the collusion is very obvious. And you'll see that play out next month.
Yeah, like, I understand that, like, Earl wasn't just fumbling his way into it, you know, like, but, like, why not just do it with Steiner?
I don't know.
Like, it just, like, you can still say it's a scheme.
But you just need to do more convoluted bullshit, you see.
I guess so.
Because if Jarrett has to win the belt, he has to win it in the most annoying way imaginable.
To really emphasize that it's a Jeff Jarrett title win.
So Larry Z immediately escorts Hebner out of the building, but Jim Cornette appears, confiscates the title, and we go off the air as Jim Cornette holds the belt and Jarrett looks really mad and stressed.
Jim Cornette is the new NWA.
That's the takeaway I had. Actually, during the qualifier, when Jarrett beats Raven, there's like a palpable sense of relief to Jarrett. It's like a really good performance. There's like a desperate sense of relief that's like, thank God I qualified for King of the Mountain. It's really good there. Well done. I will give Jarrett one compliment.
Yeah, I mean, like, there is elements to Jeff Jarrett that are good. We've never denied it.
It is just the 6th NWA World title in 4 years.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And like if you could make a rational case. No, I'm going to even disagree with myself, because I would say Christian should just turn heel and it should be Sting and Christian.
Yes, like you're trying to defend like why they need to put it on Jarrett.
Yeah, you need to put it on Jarrett for Sting to be Jarrett. Jarrett and Sting could be non-title, who cares? And Christian can turn heel and you can have Joe or Sting be Christian. So I'm going to disagree with the kind of rational case I was even going to make for myself. Fuck you, Jeff, you shouldn't have won here. Christian should have just turned as champ.
Yeah, I mean, that would make more sense. I guess, like, the idea is that, like, the loss is what's going to turn him that extra way.
And maybe some issues with Sting.
Ooh.
But we will see that develop over the next few months. But Jarrett is once again NWA World Champion.
Thank God. What would we do without it?
Have a good wrestling show that I'd like.